hands on your fucking knees. Put your feet out in front of you.
Well, which one is it, dude?
Both.
I can't do both.
Well, you're gonna have to do it real quick. Put your hands on your knees.
No.
See my fist?
Yeah, what about him?
He's getting ready to fuck you up.
Start punching, dude.
You don't fucking stop listening. It sucks. Okay? Put your fucking hands on your knees.
Well, hey, I'm sick of playing games. Which one is it?
Put your fucking hands on your knees.
Would you just fucking...
Put your hands...
Would you just fucking... All right.
Get on the ground now. Get on the ground. Get on the ground. Okay, okay, okay. Put your hands on your back. Okay. Put your hands on. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. Okay. Put your right hand on your back. Okay, hang on a second. Hang on. Okay. I'm sorry, dude.
Put your hand on your
I'm sorry.
Lay on your fucking stomach.
Put your hand on your
stomach. Put your hand on your back.
Okay.
On your stomach.
Okay, I can't, dude.
Yeah, on your back.
No, okay, I can't breathe. Okay, here, dude, I can't breathe, man. Fuck. Please, I can't breathe. Okay. I can't breathe, man.
Put your hands on your back.
Okay, here, dude. Please. Hey, Corona. I can't, dude. I fucking
Hands on your back.
Fuck. Okay, man. I can't breathe.
Relax.
I can't breathe, sir.
Just relax.
Okay. I can't fucking breathe. I can't, dude. Please. Help. Okay. Hey, I'm sorry, man. Ouch. Okay.
Relax.
I'm sorry.
Relax.
Ouch. Okay.
Joe, go to your right.
Hey.
Go to your right.
I'm sorry.
Hold on.
Ow.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry, dude. Please. Please. Take the guy, dude. I'm sorry.
Face down. Face down.
Okay, yeah.
Put your face down!
Okay. Ouch. Don't.
Resist me!
Please. Oh, God.
Stop fighting!
No.
Huh? Please! Right side. Well, stop it!
Okay. Here, dude. Here, just come.
Sorry.
Please.
Come on.
Please. Stop, dude. Please.
Roll your stomach! Roll your stomach! Roll your stomach!
Before code 3 still.
I get my arm. This arm right here. Choke him out. Help us! He's on something.
Here, I got this hand.
I know. Hobble.
Help me!
Out of my cage. Hold on.
Help me! Help me, Dad! Help me! Dad!
Here.
Ah!
Hobble. Hobble. Lay down. Lay down. Face down.
Blood everywhere. God help me! God help me, God! Help me!
Get him pulled up.
Please, God! Help me! Help me, please, God! Oh! Oh, God! I can't breathe! Dad! Okay. Help me, Dad! Help me, Dad! Help me, no! Okay, help me! Okay, help me, please! Let go of me! I can't breathe, sir!
How do you want to pull this So he's got together already in the front?
Yeah.
Him in the front.
Okay.
That's the best way I can
Because of the fight.
I say, wait, I don't want to take those off.
He's still going to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so fine, dude.
Relax. Relax. Relax.
Okay.
What's this guy's name?
That around to us.
Yeah, you don't even know. We're trying to get it.
Did we seem to pull him up?
Relax. Relax.
Oh, we pull this length up. Wait, you want to do that?
Sure.
Hold up and
Relax.
pull up and give it.
Okay, just want to sleep.
He's still fighting. Okay. Please put him in the front though.
Can you hook that right here in the front?
Yeah, let me get some gloves out. I'll get you.
The chain's right there.
I see him right there.
1897.
Which way did you wrap these?
Relax. Relax.
You good?
Okay.
What are we doing now? Are we going to release the cup and try to get him back? What are we doing?
Boy,
I don't know. I'm just
I mean, that's not
control his arm.
okay. But nobody can get those hands unless you take this stuff off.
Yeah.
Okay.
That ain't gonna happen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So what do you want to do?
Hey, you ready to get to your car? We're gonna call the ambulance. Is that you or him?
I think it's him because I ran out of oxygen, so I got the end of my taser, and I just smashed his face to hell.
May 15, 2012's Fullerton City Council meeting was the first after the public saw previously concealed security footage of Kelly Thomas getting beat to death by police. The footage was shown in court as a part of a preliminary hearing for Corporal Jay Cicinelli and Officer Manuel Ramos, and subsequently released online to the public.
This has been heart-wrenching watching the video last week. With that, we want to hear what you have to say.
Residents and sympathizers waited over 10 months for the footage to be released, so when they had a chance to tell the city what they thought, they didn't hold back.
Because people are pissed, really pissed, especially after seeing that video.
Those police officers were dangerous, and you knew it, you sick man. You watched that video and you kept those police officers on the street.
I had to walk out of that courtroom. I had to walk out when the judge said, can anyone not control themselves? I walked out. That's how bad it was.
You know what? People say I'm rude. I'm not rude. I'm pissed.
We screamed for months to release that video. You looked at us all with contempt. You called us a mob. Any word you could describe to downplay what we were saying for months.
Cicinelli will stand trial for involuntary manslaughter and excessive force, and Ramos for involuntary manslaughter and second-degree murder. But they may not be the only officers reprimanded. Ron Thomas, Kelly's father, pushed for the firing and arrest of another officer involved, Joseph Wolf, after review of the surveillance tape.
He brutally murdered Kelly, and the two huge elbows that he delivered after the baton strike, you see the big pool of blood form. It crushed Kelly's face in. So this department could have, in fact, arrested him for that, but they haven't done that. He's still being paid. So we're demanding it.
Things are changing in Fullerton. The mayor has already been replaced, and a recall of city council members linked to the police department is in the works.
That's why we're voting you out in a couple of weeks.
Justice for Kelly. Yes, on the recall.
And Ron Thomas has promised to begin protesting in front of the police department again.
If these folks don't want to cooperate, we're going to start our protest again. We're going to be right back out there one more time.
Yes. To trust that badge is really, really, really hard to do. And it's going to be hard to do.
There's pre-Kelly Thomas and there's after Kelly Thomas. That is a line in the sand made in blood.
All of the citizen action signals one thing. There will be an Act 2 to the Kelly Thomas story. Hopefully that second act will involve local law enforcement regaining the trust of its citizens. But when something this horrible is caught on tape, it's hard to forget Act 1. For Reason TV, I'm Paul Dietrich.
Police are being given complete freedom to murder innocent people. And when we take it to a jury trial, juries are then allowing these guys to get away scot-free. The 2011 beating of a mentally disabled homeless man, Kelly Thomas, who was beaten, tasered, suffocated, and pistol whipped by no less than 6 police officers, and all of this was caught on video. That has resulted in an acquittal for 2 police officers. And what's even more disturbing was that a jury found the 2 police officers not guilty on all charges of murder and manslaughter. And even though they can be heard on that videotape saying, "You see these fists? They are about to F you up." These cops maliciously beat this man on video for 20 minutes. It's a horrendous video. I can't even watch it. The man is pleading and screaming for life. He's calling out for his daddy. And the jury just decided that Thomas, coincidentally, he chose to die of this undiagnosed heart condition in the hospital 5 days after he was beaten unconscious, and he never regained consciousness. And an attorney for one of those police officers said, "These peace officers were doing their job. They had no malice in their heart." Well, I am sorry, but we have not called these guys peace officers for a long time, and they're definitely not there to uphold the peace. But you know who else doesn't have malice in their hearts? Serial killers, cold-blooded killers, people who have no emotions. If you just listen to that man pleading on the videotape, to not be able to stop yourself or to figure out another way, 6 men beat him and were restraining him, to just cuff the guy, put him in a cop car, but instead there's a huge pile of blood on the ground, and these guys are just getting their rocks off of beating this man who was mentally disabled and homeless. When you are on a jury, you have the opportunity to decide if the law is just, not whether or not the police officers broke the law, but whether or not their actions are just. You get to decide. So if you consent to this kind of action like these people on this jury did, if you consent to this kind of tyranny, then you are consenting to this cesspool of corruption that has saturated our society. This is a reflection of the society we live in, the way these police officers were, and then the way the jury just allowed and consented. They're only going to act like this if you give them your consent.
On January 14, 2014, former Fullerton Police Department officers Manuel Ramos and Jay Cicinelli were acquitted of charges in the July 2011 beating death of Kelly Thomas, a 37-year-old schizophrenic drifter. Although the not guilty verdict was a shock to supporters of the Thomas family, what may have stung even more was Cicinelli's statements to an Orange County newspaper, saying he would seek his job back with the Fullerton Police Department. "I was wrongfully terminated," said Cicinelli to the paper. "How do you argue with a jury of 12 who all agree on the same thing?" Residents and supporters showed up at Fullerton's City Council meeting January 21st to let the City Council members know how they felt about Cicinelli's rehiring.
If this guy gets rehired, it's not going to be good for the city at all.
Please do not hire those officers back.
Really, really urge the 5 of you to definitely not let Cincinnati back here. He's just not wanted here. His damage has been done.
If you vote to put him back on the force, you will be out of a job. You absolutely know that.
And another thing, grand jury. I have presented to grand juries so many times, I can't even count them. On a single day, we would present 75 to 150 cases to a grand jury, and we would do that 2 times a week when I had grand jury duty. I feel that the district attorney, as much as I respect him in other ways, used the grand jury to do what he wanted them to do as his tool. He didn't want to drop it. He presented it in such a way that this grand jury would not bring charges, and I don't like that.
Just before Officer Darren Wilson testified to the grand jury investigating his killing of Michael Brown, the assistant district attorney handling the case said this to the grand jurors. I'm going to pass out to you all. You are all going to receive a copy of a statute. It is section 563046, and it says law enforcement officers' use of force in making an arrest, and it is the law on what is permissible, what force is permissible, and when in making an arrest by a police officer. The assistant district attorney, Kathy Alizadeh, then handed the grand jury a copy of a 1979 Missouri law that was ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 1985. She was handing them something that had not been law in Missouri during her entire legal career. But it was very helpful to Officer Darren Wilson that the assistant district attorney handed the grand jury an old unconstitutional law which said incorrectly that it is legal to shoot fleeing suspects simply because they are fleeing. By handing the grand jury that unconstitutional law, the assistant district attorney dramatically lowered the standard by which Darren Wilson could be judged. She was telling the grand jury with that document that Darren Wilson had the right, the legal right, to shoot and kill Michael Brown as soon as Michael Brown started running away from him. She was telling the grand jury that Darren Wilson didn't have to feel his life threatened at all by Michael Brown. She was taking the hurdle that Darren Wilson had to get over in his testimony and flattening it. She was making it impossible for Darren Wilson to fail in front of this grand jury. She was doing all of that by handing the grand jury a so-called law that has never been the law of Missouri during her entire legal career. The portion of the Missouri law that was ruled unconstitutional says that a police officer is justified in the use of such physical force as he or she reasonably believes is immediately necessary to effect the arrest or prevent the escape from custody. That was ruled unconstitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 1985. It was legal to shoot and kill fleeing suspects in most states until the Supreme Court made it illegal in 1985, and everyone in law enforcement knows that, everyone except the 2 assistant district attorneys who were presenting the evidence to the grand jury in one of the most important cases of police use of deadly force in this country since 1985. There is nothing more helpful the assistant district attorney could have done for Officer Darren Wilson right before his testimony, than show that incorrect, outdated, unconstitutional law to the grand jury. The grand jury then listened to Officer Wilson's testimony with the belief that anything he did to Michael Brown would be fully justified legally simply because Michael Brown at some point ran away from Officer Wilson. The grand jury listened to the officer's testimony believing that according to the law, Michael Brown did not have to pose any kind of threat to Officer Wilson to justify Officer Wilson shooting him dead. Weeks after Officer Wilson testified, several weeks after that, just as the grand jury was about to consider what charges they might vote for, the assistant district attorney, Kathy Alizadeh, knew that she had better amend the record of these proceedings by introducing to the grand jury the real law, the accurate law on police use of deadly force in Missouri. And so she told the grand jury, Previously, in the very beginning of this process, I printed out a statute for you that was the statute in Missouri for the use of force to effect an arrest. So if you all want to get those out, what we have discovered, and we have been going along with this, doing our research, is that the statute in the state of Missouri does not comply with the case law. This doesn't sound probably unfamiliar to you, that the law is codified in a written form in books, and they're called statutes, but courts interpret those statutes, and so the statute for the use of force to effect an arrest in the state of Missouri does not comply with the United States Supreme Court cases. So the statute I gave you, if you want to fold that in half, just so that you don't necessarily rely on that, because there is a portion of that that doesn't comply with the law. She then handed out to the grand jury a new document explaining the law on police officers' use of force, and then said, that does correctly state what the law is on when an officer can use force and when he can use deadly force in effecting an arrest, okay? I don't want you to get confused, and don't rely on that copy or that print out of the statute that I've given you a long time ago. It is not entirely incorrect or inaccurate, but there is something in it that's not correct. Ignore it totally. A grand juror then asked, the Supreme Court, federal court, overrides Missouri statutes? Now, we all learned the answer to that in high school. It is one word: yes. That is why we no longer have segregated schools in this country. The Supreme Court said it was unconstitutional and illegal to have segregated schools, and that is the only reason states like Mississippi and Alabama and Arkansas, and yes, Missouri, no longer have segregated schools. But the assistant district attorney, when asked the simplest question she could possibly be asked by a grand juror, does the Supreme Court override Missouri statutes, couldn't bring herself to say a simple, truthful yes. Instead, she actually said, quote, just don't worry about that. Her full reply, word for word, was, as far as you need to know, just don't worry about that. The other assistant district attorney in the room added, we don't want to get into a law class.
Witness 40 is a woman by the name of Sandra McElroy, and the Smoking Gun did an investigative report on who Sandra McElroy is. Keep in mind that she's a key witness that totally had testimony that lined up with what Darren Wilson said. So let us give you the details of what she said and what her history is with race relations and mental illnesses. So she had said the following, according to the Smoking Gun. The unarmed teenager, she recalled, gave Wilson a "what are you going to do about it" look, and then, quote, bent down in a football position and began to charge at the officer. Brown, she added, looked like he was on something. As Brown rushed Wilson, McElroy said, the cop began firing. The grunting teenager, McElroy recalled, was hit with a volley of shots, the last of which dove Brown face first into the roadway.
Okay, so here's a woman who pops out of the woodworks. I mean, gives a perfect description to corroborate Officer Wilson, and then is used all over Fox News. Witness 40, witness 40, witness 40. It's over. Witness 40 said just like Darren Wilson said. So obviously all the people in the community who saw it otherwise were lying. All the witnesses were lying because we have witness 40. Turns out witness 40 is a well-known fraud.
She is a well-known fraud, and if you guys don't believe us, you don't have to. We're about to give you all the evidence indicating that she is a fraud. Now, before we get to all of that, though, just keep in mind that in the past, she has involved herself in other high-profile cases with the St. Louis Police Department, and the cops realized that all of her testimony was a complete and utter fabrication. Okay, on 2 different instances she did this. Cops determined it was a fabrication. Nonetheless, they decided to use her in this case and have her testify in front of the grand jury. Now, according to the Smoking Gun, While the hands-up account of Dorian Johnson is often cited by those who demanded Wilson's indictment, Witness 40's testimony about seeing Brown batter Wilson and then rush the cop like a defensive end has repeatedly been pointed to by Wilson supporters as directly corroborative of the officer's version of the August 9 confrontation, meaning that her testimony was really important. Now, Witness 40, a 45-year-old St. Louis resident named Sandra McElroy, was nowhere near Canfield Drive on the Saturday afternoon Brown was shot to death.
So understand why this is incredible negligence if they actually wanted to indict Wilson, right? McCullough, the prosecutor, takes her word that she magically, even though she didn't live in the neighborhood, lived nowhere near the neighborhood, and was a well-known liar to the cops and prosecutors, happened to show up on that same street at the exact time that Brown was being shot.
Right.
Who could possibly believe that unless you wanted to present false testimony?
Now, she had changed her story as to why she was there when this all went down. First, she said, oh, well, I was visiting an old friend from school. And then later on, she admitted that she likes to go to predominantly black areas because she doesn't like black people and she's trying to figure them out so she can stop referring to them as the N-word.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So she was on an expedition to find the N-words and find out if they're not so bad, when it turns out she found one charging at a decent cop who got shot and happened to be the main witness. What a stroke of luck. It turns out they are the N-word after all. Look at what she found.
Here's some more information for you guys. McElroy waited 4 weeks after the shooting to contact cops. By the time she gave St. Louis police a statement on September 11th, a general outline of Wilson's version of the shooting had already appeared in the press. McElroy's account of the confrontation dovetailed with Wilson's reported recollection of the incident. Wow. Okay, so you have someone out there who has basically just reinforced what Darren Wilson said, because she went to the cops 4 weeks later. She already knows what Wilson's account of the situation is, and she's just regurgitating it. In response to the posting of a news report about a rally in support of Wilson, McElroy wrote on August 17th, prayers, support, God bless Officer Wilson.
Okay.
Okay, so she was a supporter of Wilson.
This is anonymous meeting with Frank, KKK for KKK.
I don't know too much about anonymous. I've learned a few things in the last few days about what y'all stand for.
All of you guys changed your profile pictures to I am Darren Wilson. Is that meant to be a threat?
To show support for Darren Wilson. I know you all, you support, or you believe that Darren Wilson was in the wrong. I've come around to thinking that Darren Wilson might have been justified, but I still haven't seen the evidence.
And then 4 weeks later, since she knew what the account of the situation was, according to Darren Wilson, she went to the cops and said, hey, guess what? I was there and I saw the whole situation.
All this is incredibly convenient. Wait till we get to our history.
All right. On September 13th, McElroy went on a pro-Wilson Facebook page and posted a graphic that included a photo of Brown laying dead in the street. A type overlay read, Michael Brown already received justice, so please stop asking for it.
Oh, if you're a prosecutor and you have somebody who's put up on a Facebook page, this guy who's lying dead on the street who was unarmed, he's already received justice. I mean, that is, to say bias is the biggest understatement. But understand something, this isn't a trial. It's a grand jury process. You don't have to show defense witnesses. In fact, if you were a prosecutor and it was in the middle of a trial and the defense introduced her, you would shred her to pieces. Instead, the prosecutor brought her forward.
I know. It's amazing. And not only did the prosecutor bring her forward, listen to this. This is according to grand jury testimony. Grand jury testimony. She was diagnosed as bipolar when she was 16, which is fine. That doesn't or shouldn't exclude you from testifying. But she hasn't taken her medication for the condition for about 25 years.